All right, everybody, welcome in. This is our full body stretch class. We'll include a warm up so that the muscles and soft tissues are primed and ready for a good, safe stretch. We're going to do an up to down approach today, so top to bottom, stretching things like the neck muscles and all the way down toward the calves. Again, it's a full body, so pretty much we're doing the whole body today, and it won't be like targeting any specific muscle groups. We're just going to get the whole thing going. So let's shake out the arms, shake out the legs. You're welcome to do several of these stretches can be done in a chair. You can do them standing. Wall space or doors are fine as long as nobody's going to walk through them because you might push against the wall at different times. If you've never taken my classes before, just know that I bounce around quite a bit. I might be in a chair, I might be standing, and you don't have to do every single stretch, right? There's more value probably that you can get out of sticking with the stretches that you're enjoying and that you're feeling like you're getting a lot out of rather than just trying everything. Now, that being said, if you are new to the class and you want to just kind of taste test everything and know for the future which ones you'll skip, then sure, you can bounce around as well. But no expectation as far as getting in the chair or standing. You choose what works for you. Okay? Just jog in place, or if you're in a chair, you can kind of march the knees, getting the blood flowing. Now, we're not moving right now to burn calories per se. It's to get the blood flowing through the body, right? We've got cells with stale blood that we've got to flush out and replenish with oxygen and nutrient-rich blood. We're also warming up the body in the sense that we're making it softer and more malleable and just more readily able to stretch and return to its normal stretched state. So here we are. All right. Rolling the shoulders up, back, and down. At least a handful of times. And switch directions, up, forward, and down. So you might get a little creaking and popping here and there. We're not aiming to pop anything, right? We're not our own chiropractors, hopefully, but we're just rolling the shoulders and feeling a little bit more loose as we go. All right, settle down with the shoulders, turning the head left and right. Well, like I said, I'm not trying to crack the neck. It's not forceful. It's gentle rotation to get blood and fluid flowing through the body. All right, eyes forward. Nice wide feet, sink down at the knees and hips, or seated in a chair. You can bring your fists together, palms together, or just have the arms swing around, and this is for the spine. Now, I have wide feet with bent knees so that there's cushioning in the legs and blood flowing through the legs. If they're locked out, it's a little bit less safe, and it'll also prevent the knees from twisting. We don't want to twist the knees, just the spine right now. Okay, so I'm borrowing this move from Tai Chi and Qigong called Bear in the Woods, swinging the arms around. You can also kind of borrow from yoga and bring the palms together, or fists together is fine as well. A little bit of rotation in the spine, don't overdo it, right? Slow and steady wins the race in the game of stretch. So we'll do some stretches today for mobility, and we'll do some stretches today that help with recovery. Some are static, which we place our body into a posture that we hold there, and some are active, where the muscles go in and out of tension. Okay, let's pause at one side, take a nice deep breath, and expand the lungs and ribs. Exhale and unwind. Head to the other side. Nice deep breath, expand the lungs and ribs. Exhale and unwind. I'm going to bring my feet closer together. You might shake them out if you need to. Feet are closer, and we'll circle with the hips. Hula hoop circles to get the hip joints awake and alive. All right, and reverse directions. Circles with the hips. Great to have you guys today. Hope you're all having a nice day, whether it's early in the morning or late in the afternoon, or maybe it's just lunchtime. I don't know. Whatever time it is for you, I hope it's a good day. Marching the knees This is a low march to get the hip flexors awake and warmed up. It's not a high march, squeezing the abdominals, right? We're not trying to burn calories with this one. This is just a moderate, mild to moderate, pedaling the feet. Same thing if you're in a chair, right? Just kind of tapping the feet, waking up the hip flexors like that. And there we are. Shake it out one last time. I think we're good to go. So we didn't get the heart rate very high there, but we just kind of flushed the body and got the circulatory system flowing, okay? You are welcome to do a more intensive warm-up if you would like, and then kind of come back in 5 minutes if you've really gotten your heart rate up. That's fine. That might make you even stretchier, for example. Well, like I said, we're going to go from the top down, skip anything or modify anything that does not feel safe or appropriate for you. If you feel pain, sharpness, anything like that, back off, right? That's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for joint pain. We're looking for soft tissue tension, but not ripping and tearing. Don't do that, right? Slow and steady, soft and easy, wins the race. With the head, we're going to tilt the nose or tilt the neck so that we're looking down toward the ground. I'm not using my hands to pull, though. The weight of the head, right? We're thick enough in the skull, right? We don't need to use the hands as extra effort to push down, generally speaking. So I'm just going to look down toward the ground, take a nice deep breath, and exhale. The fingertips can kind of reach down toward the ground. All right, rocking the forehead left and right. Now, if you need to, pause and take a look at what I'm doing. It's basically rocking left and right over the hips. Okay, so it's not very far. It's just a slow swing, sway left and right. I'm not looking over the shoulders. Okay, so I'm not looking over my right shoulder and my left shoulder. It's just a small amount of rotation here. Left, right, slow, controlled movement. Okay, let's come on up with each vertebrae, slow and steady. Shrug the shoulders a couple times. And next is for the sides of the neck, okay? Sides of the neck. So as I tilt my right ear toward my right shoulder, and you can always do the opposite. It's fine if you're on the opposite side, doesn't matter to me. Right ear toward the right shoulder means I'm tilting my left ear up, and I want to make sure I'm keeping my eyes forward. I'm not looking down at the shoulder, eyes are forward, so I'm getting the side of the neck. So right ear toward the right shoulder means I'm stretching the left side of my neck. I want to make sure I'm not shrugging the shoulders up, because that'll take away from the stretch. I want to reach the fingertips down toward the ground. Remember to unlock the knees so that there's good cushioning and flow in the legs. If you're doing this seated in a chair, you have the opportunity to make this a little bit more intense, although intensity isn't necessarily a good thing, especially if you're just starting out with stretching. So the way to do that is to just bring your fingertips underneath your seat and just give it a little bit of extra leverage. So I'm looking straight forward, right ear toward the right shoulder, left ear's up, tension in the left side of the neck. Breathing, and let it out. Nice flow, one more deep breath. Let it out and slowly come up with the head. Shrug the shoulders a couple times, make sure everything's feeling like it's moving okay, right? Left ear toward the left shoulder, eyes are straight forward. Right side of the neck gets a little bit of tension there. You can reach underneath the seat if you'd like a little bit more intensity. Standing or seated, you still have the option to reach just down toward the ground and breathe in. And exhale, reaching toward the ground. Nice deep breath, last one. And exhale. There we are, coming up with the head. Shrug the shoulders. There's a couple more with the neck that we'll do in another class. We're going to move on now down the body. Shake out the legs just to keep them fresh, right? We don't want to get all stiff as we work our way down the body. So keep blood flowing. Next up, the shoulders. So this is not often a very tight part on people. You may be an exception. You might be tight in the shoulders, but often when people say they're tight in the shoulders, they're talking about the traps up here, which we kind of just got. The deltoid here, here's how we stretch this. Right arm comes across, give it a nice hug. If there's pinching in the shoulder, come down and across the stomach instead. It's not going to be quite as effective, but at least it won't be damaging, right? At least it won't be causing problems or making problems worse, okay? So if there's no pinching, come across the chest, give it a little bit of tension there, and if that's still not feeling like a stretch, you might rotate the upper body, okay? This is my right arm I'm stretching, so I'm going to turn in and out of tension over to the left here. Turning left if I'm stretching my right arm, turning right if you're stretching your left arm. Again, this is an area that is usually overly mobile, hypermobile. It's a highly mobile joint, which is sometimes it's cause for injury, too much mobility, right? So what we're doing here is just kind of gently moving in and out of tension. You may or may not feel the tension because the shoulders are so mobile. All right, drop the arm, slow and steady. Left arm comes across, give it a nice hug. That being said, if you're in, say, one of my strength classes and you're doing lots of shoulder work the day before, or if you're working outside in the yard, I don't know, doing different things around the house, living your life, and you've got soreness in your shoulders, that's when I usually feel these muscles. So right now, I am feeling them because I'm sore, but normally I don't usually feel this particular stretch. And that's okay if you don't feel it. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong, right? Might just mean you're very mobile in that area. All right, and coming out of that, shrug and roll the shoulders, shake them out, shake them out. Next up, I'm going to do the chest muscles, the pecs. This is a very under-stretched muscle, right? It's hard to stretch, and people don't often think of it. It's a very overtrained muscle. If you've done a lot of push-ups in the military or bench press, often we are shrugged forward, partly because this muscle area is hyper toned, right? It's overly strong in the chest and under toned, hypotoned in the back. So we got to strengthen our back muscles and stretch the chest. Here's how we can do it. Two different stretches. If the first one hurts your shoulder, stop right away and just skip to the second one. Here's the first one. Circles, up and back, okay? So what I'm doing here is looking for tension in the upward, backward position. So up and back, somewhere in there. Now, if you're shorter and stockier, it might be a slightly different angle than if you're taller and lankier, right? So I'm somewhere in between, I don't know. But reaching up and back, I feel a little bit of tension in my chest right about here. You may or may not feel that tension. I'm sore, again, from previous exercises, so I'm finding it. And you may or may not. So that's where my line of pull is. The line of pull is the angle at which your muscles are the strongest, right? They're the direct fiber line. And it's also the area where you'll probably get the best stretch. So find that line of pull, or look for it anyway, for yourself. It's usually up and back. That's where it is for me. And here's stretch number 2. Down and across. I call it the disco dance. Up and back. Slow and steady though. We're not pulling really fast like you're pulling a lawnmower, right? We're not trying to start the engine. We're just coming slow and steady up and back. Okay, keep going there if that's working for you. You can do all these same stretches. Just turn slightly to the side of the chair, right? That's fine. Just like this. Down and across. Up and back. So do what you have access to, right? Up and back. I'm going there. I would say do at least 10 to 12 of them. If you did 20, that's not going to hurt. People aren't usually hurting themselves from too many repetitions in the stretching world, right? It's usually too much intensity that causes injuries, right? Stretching too far, ripping through tissues. Don't do that stuff. Go slow and steady. Frequency is good. Intensity should be low. Low to moderate. Okay, I'm going to switch sides here. And circles, circles, circles. Again, if this hurts your shoulder, if you've got a rotator cuff injury or some kind of impingement in the shoulder, if any therapist or doctor has told you to back off these giant shoulder rotations, then for you, you want to skip that one and consider just doing the disco dance. If this still pinches, you might need a different stretch for this particular movement. Okay? You might need a slightly different angle, like back more or up more. Okay? and steady. Right, not a ton of momentum, not flinging the body out of control. Good, good, good. Smooth and steady. I didn't count for myself. There's a lot of things I'm good at, and I'll tell you what, counting is, while I'm teaching, I can't count. All right, I'll do like 2 more here. But I can feel my chest when it feels like it's been stretched, and other muscles as well. All right, shrug and roll the shoulders a little bit, shake out the arms, shake out the legs. Remember, keep that blood flow fresh. If you got to jog for a second, then great. To the chest, working our way down the body. This is for the back, the mid-upper back. These muscles are called rhomboids and mid-traps. Okay, these are the muscles that pull the shoulder blades back and together. This is my shoulder blade or scapula, and this is my spine, right? They bring the shoulder blades back toward the spine. Okay, so to stretch these muscles, we've got to roll the shoulders forward. You don't want to go all day with hunched shoulders, right? You want to avoid that to the best of our ability, but during this controlled exercise, it's a good way to stretch the muscles, okay? So here we are. Round the shoulders forward, and I'm going to start with my favorite one. You're welcome to do one of the others, but I won't do all of the versions today because then we'd be here for 2 hours if we did every version of every stretch. I'll save some of them for a stretch class in the future. This is my favorite, clasping the hands at the heart, pushing side to side, okay? And you do want to be intentional about pulling that hand across, because if you just shake left and right, you're not going to get a lot out of this, right? You kind of have to use a lot of intentionality to pull across. That doesn't mean to rip across, of course. It just means use some effort to push to the side. If it's feeling like too much, back off. You guys know. All right, make sure we're breathing. Okay, so that's my favorite one for the rhomboids. If you're sore, you'll feel it probably. If you're not sore, you might feel it. If you don't feel it, that's okay. There are other ways to get these muscles into some tension, right? And feeling it isn't the end-all, be-all success marker in stretching, right? You can definitely find improvements without feeling the stretch, okay? That's one version. Our second one here we'll do is clasping the hands, come forward and out to the side. Then other side, okay? So it's like a figure 8. Call it stirring the pot, or stirring the cauldron, or stirring the gumbo, the soup, whatever is in your big bowl here. We're going forward and out to the side. Maybe you can watch my shoulders here for a second. You round the shoulders forward and pull out to the side. Round the shoulders forward, pull out to the side. Okay. So that's another option. Again, I like the side-to-side one better for me. Choose what works for you. I've got a static stretch that I love for the rhomboids, but it requires a chair or to get on the floor. I'll show you briefly, but for people who are just standing and not going to get on the chair or the floor, I'm going to move on kind of quickly from this one so that you can not be left hanging there. But anyway, if you're in a chair, this is a static stretch, so we place and hold. I'm going to use nice wide feet and wide knees as my anchor point. That means I'm holding on to my knees, okay? So I'm going to use my hands, reach across to my right knee. This is my right knee. And I'm stretching my left rhomboid here, or middle traps as well. So I'm holding on, anchoring, and I'm going to lean my body weight along the length of that arm. So this is my left arm coming across, so back to the left, like this. Now I'm not pulling with my hands to get my leg in. I'm keeping my foot there, keeping my knee there, keeping my hands there. My body though, my core, right? My spine comes back a little bit to give leverage between my, in order to pull my scapula forward relative to my spine, okay? So, just like that. Make sure we're breathing. Okay, you can do the same thing on the other side, but you want to spend more time than 5 seconds doing this, right? Aim for 35 or more seconds even. Anchoring and pulling back and across. This is my right arm, so I'm going to pull back to the right. I should say I'm going to lean back to the right. Now, Stay there, stick with that if that one works for you. If you're somebody who's going to get on the ground, I'm not going to do a ton of floor stretches today. This will be brief. Feet together, like you're doing a butterfly stretch, right? Except I'm not going to lean forward. The purpose of this is not for the low back. So here we are, and it's not for the hips. I'm going to reach to the outside of one knee, and this is my anchor point. The whole purpose of the knees here is to give us some leverage, something to hold on to stretch those rhomboids, pulling back, okay? Now you just lean away from the direction you're reaching, right? This is my right arm coming across, so lean back to the right. Keep going there if those stretches work for you, if you're feeling tension in your back. That's the goal, okay? I'm gonna move on. Like I said, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time doing that, but you can if you like that stretch. Roll the shoulders a few times. Take your time getting up. You want to get dizzy and lightheaded getting up. I do a lot, so funny enough, they told me to eat more salt. So I was getting dizzy standing up. Funny. All right. Shake out the arms, shaking out the legs. And I'm not telling you to eat more salt. That's not my recommendation. That's somebody told me to do that. All right. Next up, for the lats, sides of the back, along the length of the back. Okay. These are the latissimus dorsi, or lats for short. They are the pull-ups muscle, right? So if you reach on the bar, and you do a pull-up. Do a pull-up. That's what these muscles do. So to stretch them, we gotta come up and out, up and across. Nice wide feet, or sitting in a chair works as well. I should say it works, but for me, not quite as well. If it's the best you can do, right? If sitting in a chair works for you, then stick with that, that's fine, right? Do the best you can. I like the standing one because I can move my hips a little bit, and the pelvic movement is relevant for this particular move. It's harder to do that in the chair. Here we are, clasping the hands, hands down in the center, come up and out, down in the center. Up and out, down in the center. Much like the rhomboid side-to-side stretch, intentionality matters a lot with this one. You can't just shake the maracas. You've got to bring the arm up and out. Also, your ribs should push the opposite way of your hands. If your hands are up to the right, your ribs should kind of push left. So it's like a zigzag. Right with the hands, left with the ribs, right with the hip. Okay? I don't know if it looks left or right to you in the video. It might be mirrored or reversed, I don't know. But kind of diagonal with the arms, up and across. So we're creating some expansion and some tension in the side of the body by leaning, right? Not just coming up and bending the elbows. Lean the hands. Lean the upper body. So see my hips? They are moving a little bit here. If you're in a chair, that part is kind of taken out a little bit, but you can still get a stretch, right? Nice wide feet, left and right. That's still worthy of a good stretch. For me, I just don't get quite as much. So do what you can with what you have, right? Another version I don't like as well, but you might like even more. It's a great stretch, but I have one problem with it, and it's breathing. Here's what it looks like. Hands up overhead, left and right. Okay? For me, it's hard to breathe with my hands up overhead, so I don't love that stretch. Here's what it looks like standing. That being said, it is working. It is a good stretch. I'm definitely getting tension on my sides. I've seen people do this. They like it. I don't love it, but you know, this class is about you. It's not about me, so I wanted to show you. So that's an option. Roll the shoulders, shake it out. I've got two different ways, maybe three if you count the chair version, to do an anchored lat stretch. So anchored meaning we're holding on to something. I'm going to hold on to the wall for this one. If you don't have wall space, you could potentially use a door or cabinets or whatever. Here's what it looks like. I like it a lot, but don't overdo it. Because you're anchoring to something, right? This is a static stretch. We're placing and holding. It is possible to pull too hard. So here's what it looks like. I'm going to face a wall, and I'm going to put my right hand over to the left. I'm anchoring there. I'm keeping my hand in one spot, and then I kind of push my ribs the other way. So I'm leaning over, getting a lot of tension along the side of my back. Okay, and you want to hold there. If that feels like a safe posture for you, you want to hold there for like 35 seconds or more. It takes a while for the GTOs, the Golgi tendon organs, to relax. I'm not making those up. I know it sounds like some alien thing, but it's identifiable. The triggers that tighten the muscles when you're trying to stretch relax after about 35 seconds or so. Okay, come on out. Left hand over to the right, and push the ribs over to the left. So just kind of making yourself kind of this banana shape, right? Or bending at the trunk, anchoring to the wall. You can stay longer if you need to. Please do if you like that stretch. Another way to do this, very similar. Nice wide feet. So now I'm facing the length of the wall, and you can reach the right hand over. Very similar, right? And I'm going to use my lower hand, my left hand, as just a little bit of leverage. I'm pushing off the wall, pushing my ribs toward you and upward as an option. Okay, so I like both. I like facing the wall, and I like facing the length of the wall as well. You want to get both sides symmetrically though, right? So whatever you do to one side, do to the other. So now my right hand's my low hand. I'm pushing my ribs toward you and up. Okay, so those are both options. Now, if you're in a chair, you might face a wall so that you can do the same stretch. Right hand over to the left, and just kind of push the ribs over to the right, left hand over to the right, push the ribs over to the left. So just the idea is ribs go the opposite way of whatever way you're reaching, right? Ribs. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on, and we're coming down toward our lower body now. So that was just about it for the upper body. Roll the wrists, bend and extend the elbows, roll the shoulders, and let's get to the lower half. If you need to jog to kind of refuel, reprime the lower half, right? Maybe do a couple squats, quarter squats. It's not for strength, it's not for calories, it's for blood flow. Shake it out. Speaking of blood flow, those Gong classes are great for blood flow if you haven't tried one of those. All right. Lower half. I'm going to start with my hamstrings. Almost everybody I know past the age of 12, I don't know, now I'm just making up numbers, but just about everybody I know my age, and I'm in my 30s now, and up, have tight hamstrings, and even people younger than me. So let's get started with this, and then we'll kind of work our way through the entirety of the lower body. First off, we'll do an active stretch. It's a good place to start. It's where we're moving, right? So I'll do two different ones. One is standing, one is seated. Here's our standing one. I'm holding onto a wall, right? Hold onto a wall, heel down, toe up. The knee does not need to be perfectly straight. It's a slow, steady swing. It's not a kick as high as you can, right? It's just a slow, steady movement to get a little bit of tension, emphasis on a little bit, underneath the leg here. Okay, and you can do a bunch of these. It's a big muscle. It's one of the biggest muscles in the body of most people, and so it needs a little bit more love. It needs a little more attention, right? It takes a lot more to flush that stale blood out and give space for new oxygen-rich and nutrient-rich blood. No, that's not the only thing that stretching does, but so it takes more to warm it up, it takes more to stretch it, is what I'm saying. Okay. Keep going there. If that stretch is working for you, stick with it. If you're sitting in a chair, I like to sit at the edge of the chair. Use your hands as support so that we're not over-activating our quadriceps. Let me take my phone timer out of my pocket. Sitting at the edge of the chair, I use my hands so I don't over-activate my hip flexors, and support the leg, then kick it. Notice, my knee's not perfectly straight here. That's okay. Pick the knee up, pick the leg up, and kick. And it's a slow, steady kick. Right? It's not an aggressive cheerleader toe touch, karate kick, anything like that. Slow and steady. For safety and efficiency, for effectiveness. All right. So the reason I'm not extending my knee all the way is because I'm finding tension prior to my knee getting perfectly straight. Now, if I could straighten my leg out more, great, but I don't want to decrease the stretch just to extend the knee all the way. So here's what I mean. Don't straighten the leg out and have your leg down low if that means no stretch on the hamstrings, right? If you're not feeling tension down here, you probably just need to pick the leg up higher and try to, quote unquote, straighten it out, right? Lengthen that muscle by picking the leg up more. It's not a joint mobility exercise, so we're not necessarily trying to get the knee straight. It's a soft tissue elasticity exercise. We're trying to lengthen these muscles underneath here. So bring the leg up and kick the leg. And again, you could use multiple minutes of this stretch if you wanted to. You might have to massage the hip flexors afterward though. All right, the next one here. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. This is a standing, static, so we place and hold hamstring stretch. I'm going to face a wall, put my hands on a wall. You could also face a chair, and I'll show you in a second. 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, slightly bent knees, and I'm going to hinge at the hips, pushing my bottom down and back. So here's where I'm feeling tension. My front leg, the back of that. Okay, this is my left leg for me. I'm feeling it in the back of that front leg as I hinge down, or as I hinge at the hips. Okay, we don't want to round the back here. We want to flare the tail up. So this is not one where you tuck the tail. That'll take away from the stretch. We want to flare the tail up and push the bottom down and back. Okay, same stretch can be done at a chair. Right, like this, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, and you just pull back. I've still got a little bend in the knee there because I don't want to bother any nerves. Like if I straighten my leg out, that's fine, but I kind of get this cool, tingly sensation, and I know that that's my nerves stretching, which we don't want to do, right? Nerves are like, they're less elastic than muscles. The goal isn't to stretch nerves. The goal for nerves is different. They're supposed to slide through their pathway, not supposed to become longer and shorter like we do with our other soft tissues. Okay, so a little bend in the knee, that'll help to isolate the stretch and not get too much nerve irritation going on. Okay, I'm going to switch sides. So if you're at the chair, great. If you're at the wall, great. Slight bend in the knee, pull the bottom back. Just to show you, you could always do this behind a chair as well. So any kind of object that's very stable. What I wouldn't do for my back's sake is I wouldn't do this freestanding. So I wouldn't do this without something to hold on to. I would like to hold on to something for this. Okay, not even for balance reasons, just for low back strain reasons. Okay, keep going there. Again, this is a static stretch. You want to hold for 35 or more, 35 plus seconds. Several minutes would even be fine. Probably not going to overdo it with that one, as long as you're not overdoing the intensity. Don't pull it too hard. Okay, here we are in a chair. Same stretch with a couple of cues. Okay, so sitting up nice and tall, shoulder blades back. I'm going to have my heel down and toe up on my left foot. You don't have to have the left foot go first and the right foot go second like I'm doing. I'm just doing the one that's facing you guys. But one leg straight, one leg bent. This is my active leg. This is the leg that I'm going to stretch, the straight leg. Pull the shoulder blades back and hands on the hips, hinge forward a little bit until you feel some tension, a small amount of tension in the hamstrings. So here's why I like to put my hands on my hips and shoulder blades back. You don't have to do that, but here's why. I want to keep my spine straight, nice and vertical. As I hinge forward, I want to keep it straight and not round the back. Very commonly, I see people try to touch their toes, and there's nothing inherently wrong with trying to touch your toes, that's fine, but what it gets us to do is round at the back, pulling nerves in weird ways and causing irritation, and it doesn't improve the stretch. So I want to reduce the irritation of the back, of the nerves, and increase the intensity, not intensity, but the efficiency of the stretch, the specificity of the exercise, okay? So shoulder blades back, spine nice and vertical. You don't have to have the hands on the hips. They could rest on the inactive leg, right? This is my right leg. But we don't want to round the back as we hinge forward. Okay, I'm finding tension already with my shoulder blades back. I want to round forward to reach. Okay, I'm not looking for mobility. Success for me isn't touching my toe here. Success for me is finding the sensation of some sort of stretch in my leg. Okay, toe up. And then I'll come out of that, switch sides, foot down, heel down, toe up. Hands on the hips if you like, or hands on the inactive leg if you like. Now, if you're just somebody who's very motivated by trying to touch your toe, that's fine. You can try to touch your toe with your shoulder blades back. I'm just not going to get very far, right? If I have my spine pretty straight, here's how close I get. If I round the back, I can touch my toe, but I don't want to do that. Breathing, maybe even close the eyes so that you're not thinking about, ooh, did I get closer today? Instead, you're just thinking about the sensation of stretch. All right, we're almost done with the hamstrings here. That's the biggest part of the legs that we're going to do, is that we do like 4 different stretches or so of the hamstrings. But again, that's one of the most commonly tight muscles in the body. One of the most commonly strained muscles of the body as well. Pull and a hammy, right? Don't do that. All right, stick there longer if you like it. I'm going to come out of it, shake the legs, and move on. Okay, I'm going to get to a standing position for this next one. If you're still seated, sticking with that, that's great. This next one, I don't have a seated stretch for, so you might skip this particular stretch or do one of the other ones that you've been doing that you like. This I have a good standing stretch for. These are the hip flexors. Okay, 1 foot forward and 1 foot back. Now, what we're going to do here is tuck the tail, squeeze the glutes, and push the hips forward. I'll say it again, but you don't want to be stepped too far back, too long of a stride, because then you won't be able to do those 3 things very well. Okay, so here's what we want to skip. We don't want to strap as far back as possible, because there's no way to tuck the tail now. It's just already in its furthest posture, right? There's no way to fix it. So what we want to do is just a slight stride back. Okay, like you're taking a walk in the park and you're just a natural step, I would say. Then from there, take the pelvis and tuck the tail. Okay, the other way to describe that is imagine your pelvis is a water bowl, right? Water bowl, and you're tilting it backward. Okay, posterior pelvic tilt. You're tilting it back. If you tilt it forward, we take tension off of the muscle. Well, with a stretch, we want to add tension, so we're going to tuck the tail. The next cue, that's number 1. Next cue, number 2, is squeeze the glutes in the back. That can help to increase intensity. Then the third cue is push the hips forward a little bit by bending that front knee just slightly. Check out this front knee. Pretty vertically stacked shin, right? Shin, not shin. Knee is stacked above the ankle. You don't want to bring that knee like beyond the front toe. If you're doing that, then maybe you do need to step a little bit farther apart with your feet. Again, you don't want to bring that knee beyond the toe. That's just not great pressure on the knee. So here it is again. Let me just get into it one last time here and we can stick with it for 30, 40 seconds, whatever. Right foot back, tuck the tail, squeeze the glutes, push the hips forward a little bit. Now I'm going to keep a nice vertical spine here. If you would like to add the arms, reach forward and up. And yes, this does look like a yoga move, right? It looks like Warrior 1. Okay, you might find extra tension kind of in the abdominal, hip flexor region right down in here as you reach up. Okay, breathing there. You might add a little bit of motion by bending and extending that front knee, just a little bit of a wiggle, pulsing. And then I'm going to come out of it by tipping forward. Very important. I want to step forward versus launching back. I don't want to step back like this because you can overstretch with a little bit too much momentum. So it's better to step forward for this one. Okay, march the knees. If you're stretching that hip flexor enough, it might feel like it's hypermobile, and that can increase an injury or increase the likelihood of an injury if you don't return it back to a normal, for you, length tension relationship by just kind of reactivating the muscle. So you stretch something, it gets longer, you want to reactivate those muscles right afterwards so that they're safe to use again, right? It's part of the cool down process of an exercise. All right, other side. Now I'm stepping back to my left foot. You can be on the other side if you are, that's fine. Tuck the tail, squeeze the glutes, and push the hips forward. You decide if you want to bounce the knee forward a little bit, in and out of tension there. You want to keep the shoulder blades back, the nice vertical spine. The arms might come up. Breathing. Spend a little bit more time here. Almost done with the hip flexors. All right, and stepping forward, hinge forward, step forward, march the knees a little bit there. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Okay, we're going to do 2 different stretches here, kind of at the same time. I'm going to bounce back and forth. And the reason is I'm going to do a glute stretch sitting in a chair, and I'm going to do a quadricep stretch standing at the wall. So if you're somebody who's standing and I don't have a chair available, you don't have a chair available, then you might just stick with the quadriceps. I know they're different muscle groups, but if you're in a chair and you're not able to stand, then you're not going to do this quadricep stretch either. So it's kind of like the chair folks and the wall folks. You decide if you're going to do both. You can always pause it or take your time on both. Anyway, let's do the chair one first. Here's the glutes. Sitting up, I'm going to cross one leg over the other and pull the leg back toward myself. So I don't have a great standing version of this stretch. There are standing glute stretches. I prefer this seated one. There's no risk of falling, and there's a floor one that I also can show. Pull the leg back, and if you want more intensity, pull it across the body. So this is my right glutes that I'm trying to stretch here, which means I'm going to pull across to the left. Okay, keep going there if that works for you, but just to reiterate, if it's your left leg, pull it back. If that's not enough intensity, pull across. This is my left glutes, left leg, pulling across to the right. Keep going there. Like I said, I'm going to show folks who don't have a chair in their room a quadricep stretch. You want to hold onto the wall, unlock the knees, and I'm going to reach my left hand to my right foot or my right hand to my left foot. So it's one limb to the opposite limb, okay? Like this. You might need to squat down a little bit and then stand tall. There are reasons that I like to go opposite limbs, and it's mostly for knee safety. The hip is very readily able to turn out. Let me show you that. As I squat down, my hip is happily able to turn out, right? And then the knee is lined up in this direction, and that's fine. Whereas if I pull back with the same side hand, often what happens is we're pulling out, creating a little bit of separation in the medial, that inner line of the knee. So let me show you a front view here. We don't like to hold out to the side. If you do grab with the same side limb, you just want to make sure you're very super duper lined up. And that's harder to do and more to monitor. I just assume easier to grab the opposite limb. So left hand to right leg, right hand to left leg. Okay? So that you're not pulling out on accident. Okay, switching sides, right hand to left foot, and standing. Now I'm pulling the foot up with a little bit of intensity, emphasis on a little bit, because you can strain your quadriceps just by pulling up hard enough, right? Don't strain yourself. Slow and steady wins the race. A mild stretch that lasts a long time is better than an intense stretch that lasts 5 seconds. So let it get used to a new comfort zone. Bend that knee, the one that is grounded here. My right foot is on the ground, so I'm going to bend my right knee, creating a little bit of cushion there. Okay? You're welcome to spend more time doing that. going there if you like that stretch. Really quick here, I'm going to get back in the chair and show a second glute stretch, and then I'll get to the floor to show a couple more glute stretches, especially for those who didn't have a chair and were standing and you're going to get to the ground too. So here we are, sitting in a chair. You may or may not be able to get your ankle over your other knee. Here's what it looks like. Ankle crosses over. Okay, this looks to me like grandpa reading the newspaper, drinking the coffee, sipping the tea, that kind of stuff. Morning glute stretch, okay? Crossing the ankle over. Whereas before we crossed the leg over and hugged it back, this one, you cross the ankle over the knee, and you can lean forward slowly. This one's very intense for me on my glutes, so you want to go very slow. You might hold on to the chair, right? Hold on to your chair. As you tip forward, just make sure you're not going to tip the whole chair. And it's just a light amount of pressure. For me, it feels like a lot on my right glutes, okay? Make sure you get both sides if you do that stretch. If you do any stretch, get both sides, okay? If you need to, use a stool to kind of grade up and up and up. So if you can't get your ankle over your knee, bring your ankle up this high and prop it up with a stool. I've suggested before people use one of those like little trash cans, like a bathroom trash can. I'm picturing one of those plastic ones. Flip it over, right, empty out the trash first. Flip it over, and then you got a, I don't know how tall mine is. I'll measure for you. Probably 15-inch tall trash can. 14, whatever. I don't know how tall it is. So just like that. And then you can do your leaning forward. If you can't get your ankle over your knee. Another tip there is leaning back a little bit might help to get your ankle over the knee, and then you can lean forward. So leaning back a little bit to get into that posture. Okay, keep going there. If the seated glute stretches are working for you, stick with them. Here's the floor glute stretches, and I'll just show you a couple today. I think I have like 5 or 6 of these, so we'll get to more in another class, but let's do these ones for now. One leg forward, one leg crosses over, just like in the chair, and you hug it back. Give it a nice hug. There's no magic that happens for the knee touching the chest. So don't go for mobility, go for sensation of stretch, right? Just like all the other stretches. Don't go for range of motion goals here. Go for tension. If you go for range of motion goals, what tends to happen is you cheat yourself and you round the back and you force it to happen, right? Just go for sensation of stretch. You can also, if you want more intensity, pull across the body. So you might end up turning the spine here to pull the right leg over with the left hand. Or if you're on the other side, you might pull the left leg over with the right hand and twist the spine a little bit there. Okay. Now you might be more mobile and get a lot more range of motion out of it. Some folks will look like this, cross, hug, and then really reach back. This is a lot of spine motion that might bother some people, so I don't know how much spine mobility you have. Don't cause pain in one area just to help the other area, right? Another option here, this is equivalent to that the chair version of the newspaper, coffee, tea sipping, right, the ankle over the knee, that stretch. So we get on our back sides, bring the right ankle over the left knee, and rock it back. You can use your hands to pull the leg that you're stretching, or the supporting leg, or both. This is my right leg that I'm stretching, I'm rocking it back. Okay, stick with that for much longer if that was doable for you. Ankle over the knee and rock back. And even if you can't do these stretches right now, wherever you're at, you don't want to get on the floor, I don't know what it is, haven't vacuumed in a while, who knows. You could just remember these stretches to do later, in bed, on a couch, something like that. All right, keep going there if those are good stretches for you. Whenever you're ready to get up, come up slow and steady. All right. Shaking out the arms, shaking out the legs, breathing. And we're getting toward the end here. I'm going to end with our calves stretch. You know what? Two more stretches. I'm going to do the calf stretch and the adductors, the inner legs. Let me flip that so that we end at the bottom. Remember, we started at the neck, worked our way down. The legs got a little messy because I wanted to start with the critical ones, the hamstrings. So we'll do the adductors and calves last here. Adductors are these muscles, inner leg, inner line of the leg. They bring the legs together. So to stretch them, we have to bring the legs apart. My favorite way to do this is using a chair, but not sitting on a chair. There is a seated stretch. I'll show you briefly, but here's my favorite. Holding onto the seat, nice wide feet, and you weight shift left and right. Okay? Another view. You want to make sure your feet are wider than your sway, right? As you lunge left and right, my bottom is not going to go beyond my base of support. We don't want to go beyond the base of support, not for fall reasons, but because this is ineffective, right? As I sway left and right here, I'm not getting any tug on the inner line of my leg. So you want nice wide feet so you can get a little bit of tension as you go left and right. If you would like to multitask, you can also pull back and get some hamstring stretch. So left, pull back, right, pull back. So see, I'm swaying back, forward, switch, back, forward, switch. I don't like to multitask a lot of moves with stretching because I feel like where you improve one area, then you miss out on the other. It's kind of a give and take. With this one, I feel like I get a good hamstring and a good adductor, adductor stretch at the same time. All right, coming up out of that, you can also do that same stretch at a wall, left and right, and pulling back for the hamstrings if you like. Remember, I like to use my hands on something for that so that I'm not straining my low back at the same time, okay? If you're in a chair, I used to love this one, but I've found that lately it's been less effective for me. So you decide for yourself if it works. If it doesn't, then you might need something more intense like the one we just did. So heel down, toe up, straight leg, and then I'm going to turn away from that front leg. I'm going to turn to the left. If you've got arms in your chair that are in the way, you might need to do this later on a different seat. I'm going to turn away from that front leg and open up the hips. Okay? I'm going to need more mobility here, so I'm actually going to reach my leg over to the right and open up the hips to the left. And I'm looking for tension on the inner line of that right leg. Okay? Again, when I started teaching this stretching class a couple years ago, I felt this. It felt like a lot of tension. I was enjoying this stretch. Over the last several months, it has felt like I could use more mobility here to get more of a stretch. So I've been doing other stretches like that one I just showed you, the rocking left and right one for me. And this one might be appropriate for some folks. So I'm using the back of my chair as some leverage, right? Turning the body and opening up the legs. Switching sides, make sure you get both sides. Okay. And final stretch here. One last stretch. These are the calf stretches. I am kind of particular about this. I don't like to do it freestanding or without any equipment at all. I love using the wall or the chair for this, and I have a good reason. Here it is. If you hold onto a chair and get into kind of this lunge, you have something to push against, right? If the chair has wheels, that's not going to work either. It needs to be sturdy with strong, good legs to stay in place. So I'm pushing backward, pushing my heel down into the ground so that I get a little bit of tension right about here. I'm going to point with my toe in the calves, in the bulky part of the lower leg. The wall is great because I can get even more horizontal force going. But what I like to avoid is just the freestanding one. Like I said, you can get into the right posture, but you can't get the right pressure. You got nothing to push against if you just do the standing calf stretch like this. So you decide, right? If you just want a really mild calf stretch, then yes, just getting into that posture might be enough. But I like the leverage of the wall of the chair, holding on heel down and back, adding a little bounce maybe, right? Yeah, that's what works for me. And I'll tell you what, that feels like a good stretch. Nice, nice, nice. Breathing. All right. Like I said, you're welcome to do this stretch class several times a week. Frequency is often not a problem, right? Doing too much stretching usually is not a complaint medical professionals have. Doing it too hard, right? Doing it too intensely, that's what can cause injuries. But you're welcome to stretch several times a week, even multiple times a day. I'm not saying you have to do this class. If there were moves in this class that you liked this time and you watch the same class again, stick with the ones that you like, ditch the ones that you don't like, right? Skip them, spend twice as much time doing the ones that you did like, and that way you'll get a little bit more value out of your time. All right, everybody, one last thing. I think that this is the best place probably for me to store these videos, at least for now, while I'm going to be helping to take care of my mom while she recovers, but also for things like holidays when I'm not able to teach live classes. But anyway, so thank you guys so much, and if you want to see when I post more videos like this, you might hit the subscribe button, but otherwise I send these videos out to you guys if you're requesting them to your emails, so you don't like have to hit the subscribe button. Doesn't matter to me. But thank you guys so much. I just hope that this can be something that you guys can access when I'm not available to do live classes. Yeah, so until next time, I'll see some of you guys live, and some of you guys will see me on here. All right, bye-bye.